What if the truths you hold dear are mere phantoms, illusions spun by a mind too timid to face the raw, unfiltered pulse of existence? At True Freedom, we invite you into the electrifying chaos of Friedrich Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil, a work that doesn't soothe, but shatters, tearing down the fragile walls of morality, religion, and societal norms with a ferocity that demands awakening. Here, certainty is not a refuge but a prison. The only salvation lies in the courage to question, peel back the layers of convention, and confront the untamed wilderness within. Nietzsche offers no gentle embrace. He hurls us into a storm of thought where good and evil dissolve, where freedom is not bestowed, but seized through the fierce assertion of will. Picture a realm where dogma lies broken, where the noble solace ends not by divine grace, but by its own relentless striving. Nietzsche's vision, reframed here in a language that resonates with the modern seeker, strips away the dense veil of his original, prose to unveil questions that burn with relevance. At True Freedom, we weave his 19th-century fire into the fabric of today, connecting his rejection of Christian slave morality, his exaltation of the aristocratic spirit, but his piercing critique of human frailty to our timeless pursuit of meaning. Is his philosophy for those who echo the resilience of Marcus Aurelius, the defiance of Epictetus, or the existential hunger of our own restless age, the bridge between past and present, daring us to shed the illusions that bind us. Are you ready to step beyond the comforting lies, to embrace a journey where every step challenges what you thought you knew? This is no tame exploration. It's a plunge into the depths of being, a call to redefine the self amidst life's ceaseless flux. Nietzsche's world promises no easy truths, only the exhilarating clash of inquiry against the bedrock of inherited belief. At True Freedom, we thrive on this tension, inviting you to join us as we unravel his provocative realm, a tapestry of beauty and brutality, of doubt and discovery. What does it mean to be free in a universe indifferent to your pleas? This is your moment to wrestle with that question, to claim a wisdom that lies beyond the horizon of the ordinary. Imagine a world where nothing endures unchanged, where the pillars of belief you've leaned upon crumble into dust, revealed as mere slates of the mind illusions crafted to shield you from the jagged edges of reality. Friedrich Nietzsche beckons us into this disorienting expanse through Beyond Good and Evil, a work that wages war on the sanctuaries of tradition with a ferocity that leaves no stone unturned. Here, comfort is not a friend, but a foe, a seductive trap that dulls the spirit and blinds us to the ceaseless dance of uncertainty that defines existence. Raising the edifices of morality, religion, and philosophy to their very foundations, he implores us to cast aside the binary shackles of good and evil, to reject the suffocating embrace of societal norms, and to chart a course through the wild and bridled chaos of life, guided only by the compass of our own making. To enter Nietzsche's realm is to face a formidable challenge, a gauntlet thrown down, could the timid and the bold alike. His original text, a labyrinth of dense prose and intricate paradoxes, can feel like a forest of thorns, beautiful yet impenetrable, its branches laden with ideas that snag and resist casual passage. Each sentence bristles with meaning, each paragraph a thicket of thought that demands patience and persistence to traverse. Yet beneath this complexity lies a fire that refuses to be dimmed, a brilliance that has inflamed rebels, poets, and free spirits across the ages, from the salons of 19th century Europe to the restless minds of our digital era. Recognizing the barrier his style poses to the uninitiated, we've undertaken a bold reimaging, distilling his insights into a modern vernacular that speaks directly to today's seekers, those who yearn for depth in an age of shallow certitudes, who wrestle with the same existential hunger that drove Nietzsche to his pen. This is no dilution of his genius, but a clarion call, rendering that preserves the piercing questions at the heart of his philosophy while cutting through the archaic weight of his words. We've stripped away the florid tangles of his Victorian era German, replacing them with a clarity that echoes across time, the voice that resonates with the contemporary soul without sacrificing the intensity of his vision. Are you prepared to plunge into this sea of thought, where every conviction is held to the flame, where the path of least resistance yields to the rugged ascent of self-discovery? If so, this exploration offers a lantern through Nietzsche's untamed wilderness, a domain where simplicity is scorned, where the soul is forged anew in the crucible of doubt, and where the ordinary gives way to the extraordinary. There are no gentle reprieves here, no soothing platitudes to cradle the weary. Nietzsche's demand is uncompromising. Interrogate the very marrow of your world with a curiosity that knows no bounds, sparing neither the sacred nor the self. His philosophy is a tempest, a whirlwind that uproots the familiar and scatters it to the winds, leaving us to sift through the debris for meaning. It's a call to arms for the mind, a summons to battle against the inertia of inherited belief, with a vigor that borders on the ecstatic. If this stirs a spark within you, if you're eager to traverse these intellectual wilds alongside kindred spirits, the invitation stands open at true freedom. Let this be a collective odyssey, a shared unraveling of the illusions that bind you as a journey, not for the faint-hearted, but for those who crave the thrill of the unknown. Nietzsche opens with a provocation as tantalizing as it is unsettling. Imagine truth as a woman elusive, capricious, a being of infinite allure who slips through the fingers of those who seek to possess her. What then? Wouldn't this unravel the pretensions of philosophers, those solemn suitors who've pursued her with furrowed brows and rigid doctrines, their voices trembling with the weight of their own certainty? Their earnestness, Nietzsche suggests, is their undoing a clumsy dance of awkward advances, desperate clutching at a prize that refuses to be claimed. The dogmatists, those architects of grand systems, or Plato can't approach truth with a seriousness that borders on desperation, a method ill-suited to her nature. She has never surrendered to their ponderous logic, never bowed to their rigid frameworks or their fumbling grasp. Today, their creeds stand diminished, shadows of their former glory, if they stand at all. Thun proclaimed dogma's demise, a relic toppled and left to wheeze its last in the dust of history, a bold claim, yet one Nietzsche toys with, his tone laced with both mockery and possibility. Beneath this playful jab lies a weightier reflection. With towering philosophies of old, with all their pomp and certainty, may rest on foundations more fragile than their builders dared confess. What if their solemn verdicts were but a noble childishness, an naive faith in absolutes masquerading as wisdom? What if the truths they proclaimed were not revelations of the cosmos, but echoes of their own souls, superstitions dressed in the garb of reason, personal quirks inflated into universal laws? Perhaps these systems sprang from a primal belief in the soul, a phantom that endures even now, whispering its deceits under the guises of self and ego, haunting the corridors of modern thought with its spectral presence. Or maybe they were born of language's trickery, a grammatical sleight, a bold leap from the narrow confines of individual experience to the vast expanse of eternal verities, all too human in their imperfection. Dogmatic philosophy, Nietzsche ventures, was a mere promise, a rough sketch of a maturity yet to dawn, its full flowering deferred by millennia. Once at astrology, long before science mapped the heavens with precision, it spun tales of celestial power, birthing architectural wonders in ancient Egypt, pyramids and temples that reached for the stars, fueled by more ingenuity, patience, and gold than the nascent sciences of its day could muster. So too, philosophy's dogmatic infancy may have been a necessary caricature, an exaggerated silhouette cast to etch its mark upon humanity's soul, a prelude to a wisdom still gestating in the womb of time. Think of the Vedantic traditions weaving their intricate webs across Asia, a metaphysical threads binding the mortal to the divine. Or Plato's idealism casting its luminous spell over Europe, the vision of pure forms that dazzled and deceived in equal measure. These were not errors to dismiss with a sneer. They were items that shaped the contours of our being, their influence rippling through centuries. Yet their gravest misstep, Plato's invention of pure spirit. His good in itself stands as a blight, a denial of the shifting perspectives that breathe life into existence, a sterile abstraction that suffocates the vibrant chaos of the real. Now, Europe awakens from this fevered dream, its breath freer, its slumber deeper, unshackled at last from the nightmare's grip. The continent, long ensnared by Plato's legacy, exhales a sigh of relief, its spirit lighter for the shedding of that ancient weight. We who remain watchful, neither lulled by Jesuit cunning nor swayed by the platitudes of democratic enlightenment, inherit the strength forged in that protracted struggle. Plato's inversion of truth, his rejection of life's kaleidoscopic lens, infected the West with a malady that lingers still, a sickness of the soul that prefers the sterile to the vital, affixed to the fluid, as a healer might probe a wound. Nietzsche asks, how did this affliction seize Plato, that exquisite pinnacle of antiquity, that mind so refined it seemed to touch the divine? Was Socrates, with his impish provocations and relentless questioning, the true corrupter earning his hemlock by sowing doubt in a soul too delicate to resist? Did that gadfly's sting awaken Plato to a truth he could not bear, driving him to erect a fortress of ideals against the flux of becoming? The war against Plato, or, more plainly, against Christianity's suffocating shatter, a Platonism distilled for the masses, has strung the European spirit taut, a bow poised to loose arrows at the farthest reaches of possibility. For centuries, this tension has simmered, a coiled energy born of resistance to an oppressive creed that tamed the wild heart of man. Jesuitism, with its calculated piety, and the democratic Enlightenment, with its flood of press and print, sought to slacken this tension, the latter numbing the soul's ache with ceaseless chatter, a barrage of words that dulled the edge of existential distress. Yet we, the unbound, neither Jesuits nor Democrats, neither fully German nor wholly anything but true Europeans, free spirits carry the tension still, our bow drawn, our aim unfaltering. We stand as heirs to a legacy of struggle, our spirits stempered by the clash against Platonic rigidity and its Christian offspring. This is no mere historical footnote. It's a living inheritance, is no mere historical footnote, a vitality that pulses through us, urging us toward horizons yet unseen. Nietzsche's preface sets the stage, but his chapters plunge deeper, each a facet of a philosophy that refuses to rest. Relentless inquiry into the human condition that strips away pretense and demands engagement. Philosophers, Nietzsche contends, masquerade as truth's champions, unveiling existence's mysteries with a sage's poise, their voices resonant with the authority of reason, but strip away their veneer, and what remains? Men like any other, their systems gilded cages for bias, desire, and belief, fragile constructs masquerading as eternal verities. They drape personal whims in reason's mantle, proclaiming objectivity while tethered to the raw stuff of life, emotions swirling like tempests, upbringing etched into their bones, even the body's silent dictates weaving their doctrines thread by thread. What they call truth is often a confession, an echo of their inner world, not a revelation of the outer cosmos, a mirror reflecting the philosopher's soul rather than a window piercing the veil of reality. The vaunted freedom of thought, so proudly proclaimed, dardens into dogma as unyielding as the creeds they scorn, ironic chains forged from their own hands. Behind every philosophical edifice lurks a will to power, not a serene quest for understanding, but a fierce drive to impose their vision, to reshape reality in their image, to bend the world to their will. This is no noble pursuit of wisdom. It's a conquest veiled in intellectual garb, a battle waged not with swords but with concepts, not on fields but in minds. Nietzsche's insights lices through the pretense. Philosophy is not a detached ascent to truth, but a deeply human endeavor, fought with the desires, fears, and aspirations of its practitioners. The free spirit, then, is no mere rebel shrugging off tradition's yoke with a disdainful flick of the wrist. It is a rarer creature, a soul unafraid to challenge the very bedrock of conviction, even its own standing solitary against the tide of conformity. Its freedom demands a courage forged in fire to question the self, evident with a rigor that spares nothing, to embrace the void of uncertainty with a heartened bode, to revise ceaselessly as new light pierces the gloom of old certitudes. Such spirits stand apart, solitary explorers of uncharted thought, misunderstood by a world clinging to the familiar. Their voices a whisper against the roar of the crowd. They seek not final answers, but the ceaseless rhythm of becoming, knowing all values are human crafts, forged in the interplay of power and perspective. A path is not one of ease but of relentless ascent, a journey through doubt's shadowed valleys and discovery's blinding peaks. The pilgrimage that shuns the safe harbor of certainty for the open sea of possibility. A free spirit is both creator and destroyer, tearing down the idols of the past to erect new altars from the rubble. Altars not to gods, but to the self's infinite potential. This is freedom not as a gift, but as a conquest, a prize wrested from the jaws of convention by those daring enough to claim it. Nietzsche's vision of the free spirit is a beacon for those who feel the stirrings of something greater within, a call to step beyond the herd and into the solitude of authentic being. Religious moods, Nietzsche observes, pulse deep within the human soul, primal responses to life's mysteries, to death's inexorable shadow, to the vast unknown that looms beyond our grasp. They've sculpted cultures with a hand both gentle and iron, offering purpose amid chaos, a compass for navigating the abyss. From the towering cathedrals to the quiet reverence of a forest glade, these moods weave threads of meaning through the tapestry of existence. Yet their extremes breed fanaticism, splitting the world into stark dualities: good versus evil, sacred versus profane, light versus dark, carving reality into rigid fragments that resist the flow of nuance. This rigidity can stifle growth, encasing the mind in a tomb of absolutes. Yet at their best, these moods unveil wisdom, stirring on, probing the soul's uncharted depths with a tenderness that transcends words. They are born of wonder, the vastness of the stars, the fragility of a breath, and of terror, the silence of the grave, the void's unblinking stare. The modern minds must wield skepticism as a blade, harnessing their power without succumbing to their traps, balancing openness with critique to touch the sublime beneath the mundane. To dismiss them is to deny a part of ourselves. To embrace them blindly is to forfeit the freedom Nietzsche champions. Love, Nietzsche muses, falters without intellectual kinship. Its absence breeds cowardice and deceit, the hollow shell mistaken for devotion. And noble souls seek no approval, crafting virtues from within, a gaze fixed on horizons unseen by the timid. Art and delusion, meanwhile, soften life's harsh edges, offering solace where reality cuts to deep cathedrals of the mind where the weary find respite. Solitude is greatness's crucible, mediocrity its compromise, a truth that echoes through the ages from the Stoics to our own fractured time. Morality, too, evolves a human tapestry woven from survival's brutal threads, power's iron grip, and faith's fragile dreams, shifting with the tides of culture and circumstance. Scholars, those peculiar seekers, chase knowledge with a blend of patience and peril. Their lives a dance between solitude and revelation. They are not mere collectors of facts, but wrestlers with the infinite, ever aware their quest is boundless, their objectivity a fragile dream pierced by the shadows of their own humanity. Our task is not to know with finality, but to question with fervor, to live as fully as they think, to weave understanding from the chaos of experience. Virtues, for the free spirit, are not inherited relics but living flames, dynamic, personal, born of struggle and reflection, heralding a future unshackled from past pieties, demanding courage to chart the unknown with a hand steady and a heart ablaze. Nations and peoples, like Wagner's music, blend pride and decay, youth and age, a German soul too potent to fade, yet too formless to define, a paradox of vigor and exhaustion. Nobility, Nietzsche concludes, rises from aristocracy's brutal soil, its pathos of distance birthing higher states of being through the blood and fire of conquest. Master and slave moralities clash, noble pride versus meek utility, yet the noble soul's certainty, its reverence for itself, marks its ascent above the fray. This is no end, but a beginning, a call to transcend, to question, to become, a summons to step beyond the illusions of the past into the infinite potential of the now. Nietzsche's philosophy does not offer a resting place, it is a launching pad, a precipice from which we leap into the unknown. It demands that we question everything, our beliefs, our values, our very selves, and accept nothing without scrutiny. This journey is not about arriving at a final truth, but about forever moving beyond the horizon of our current understanding, constantly evolving, growing, and redefining what it means to be human. By translating his challenging ideas into a language that speaks to the 21st century, we bring his provocations closer to the world we inhabit, a world of rapid change, of clashing ideologies, of a hunger for meaning that mirrors his own. But the real work falls to you, the thinker, the seeker, the one who dares to heed his call. For you, without the scaffolding of inherited belief, what values are truly yours, forged in the fire of your own experience and reflection rather than handed down by tradition or decree? Nietzsche's challenge is not for passive consumption, but for active engagement, a wrestling with life's most fundamental questions that Lee has known no to soul and touch. And the journey doesn't end with this exploration. It begins anew with every moment you choose to defy the status quo, to step beyond the easy comforts of conformity, and to carve out your own unique path through the wilderness of existence. The true adventure lies not in finding answers, but in embracing the questions that propel us forward beyond the simple, beyond the safe, beyond good and evil. This is Nietzsche's gift, a philosophy that refuses to coddle, that instead ignites the spirit with a fire that burns away illusion. It's a call to arms for the free, a hymn to the noble, a dirge for the timid, a work that stands as both mirror and hammer, reflecting our depths and shattering our chains. As we close this exploration, we stand not at a conclusion but at a threshold, peering into the vastness of what might be. The world Nietzsche envisions is not one of peace but of struggle, not of harmony but of tension, a world where the strong rise not by fate but by will, where the free spirit dances alone on the edge of the abyss, unshackled by the past and unbound by the present. Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil, rekindled here for the modern mind, emerges as a means to shatter the illusions that confine us, a clarion call to claim the boundless expanse of true freedom. At true freedom, we've traversed his jagged terrain from the wreckage of dogma to the soaring heights of the noble, through the unrelenting will to question, and arrived at a vision of life as an eternal unfolding. His philosophy dismantles the crutches of morality and religion, not to leave us adrift but to compel us to stand unaided, to forge values from the molten core of our own experience. It's a mirror reflecting our deepest yearnings and fears, a challenge to rise above the herd and dance with the chaos that defines our humanity. What echoes within you, his fierce defiance, his solitary grandeur, or his insatiable hunger for the unknown? This journey through Nietzsche's thought is no mere intellectual exercise. It's a spark to ignite your own quest for meaning. Does his rejection of pity stir you to embrace strength? Or does his scorn for conformity awaken a longing for authenticity? At True Freedom, we thrive on such provocations, urging you to join the dialogue. Share your reflections in the comments, tell us where his words resonate or repel. Spread this flame to others who dare to question, and subscribe to fuel your journey with more explorations into the soul's uncharted depths. Nietzsche's legacy is not a doctrine to obey, but a fire to wield, a tool to carve your own path through the wilderness of existence. Stay with us as Sophia and Lucas step into this fray next, bringing their unique voices to Nietzsche's enduring echo. Sophia, with her poetic finesse, and Lucas, with his incisive clarity, will unravel how his ideas ripple through our modern psyche, offering perspectives that deepen this odyssey. Their discussion, rich with insight and fervor, follows immediately. Don't let it pass you by. True freedom. We're not here to deliver answers, but to stoke the questions that propel us forward, beyond the safe, beyond the simple, beyond good and evil.
Hey everyone, welcome to this deep dive all about Nietzsche.
Ooh, Nietzsche, yeah.
We're going to be looking at beyond good and evil, specifically through this really cool article called Shattering Illusions, Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil Unleashed. And it's from a website called True Freedom.
Okay.
Now, I think we both know that Nietzsche is known for being a little intense.
Challenging thinker, for sure.
But we really want to make this deep dive an adventure for you.
Absolutely.
So less stuffy lecture hall and more like a wild philosophical ride.
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
because he really does, he throws down the gauntlet.
He does.
It's not about like giving you easy answers.
Right.
He wants you to question everything you thought you knew.
Okay.
And I mean, like, starting with the most basic stuff, like good and evil.
Okay.
Are those even real things, like out there in the universe? Or are they something we as humans just...
I mean, that's where I get tripped up immediately.
Right.
Because it's so ingrained in us, you know, good and evil. Like, it's how we think, it's how we make decisions, even judge other people.
It's everywhere, right.
So is he saying that's all just arbitrary?
He actually goes even further than that.
Okay.
To illustrate his point, he uses this metaphor of truth as a woman.
Truth as a woman.
Yeah, so picture all these philosophers, right?
Okay.
Trying to wow her.
You're right.
But they're these clumsy suitors.
Oh.
And they're always getting it wrong.
Oh, so they're like failing miserably. Philosophers trying to be smooth and it's just not working.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I like where this is going.
It's kind of funny, right?
Yeah.
But the deeper point here.
Yeah, what is it?
Is what if all these grand systems philosophers come up with? What if they're not about some big universal truth?
Okay.
What if they're just projections of the philosopher's own personality?
Oh.
Their desires, their biases.
So instead of uncovering some objective truth,
maybe
they're revealing their own, like, baggage.
It's a humbling thought, isn't it?
It is. It is.
So then how do we even know what's real?
Right. Like, if everything we believe is just a reflection of ourselves, how do we sort through all that?
Well, that's what Nietzsche wants us to grapple with, that uncertainty.
Okay.
He argues that even the most respected thinkers are influenced by their emotions, their upbringing, their bodies, all these subjective things.
So nobody's really objective.
Exactly. And he uses this idea of the will to power.
Okay, will to power. I've heard that before.
Yeah, it's a big one.
But what does he actually mean by that?
It's this like fundamental human drive to create, to influence, to shape the world around us according to our own vision.
Okay.
So his point is, philosophers aren't just passively searching for truth. They're actively trying to impose their will, their interpretation onto reality.
So they're big philosophical systems.
It's more about...
Are less about finding the truth and more about control.
It can be seen that way.
Wow.
Shaping the world in their own image.
And does that apply to, like, everyone then? Are we all just trying to control things even if we don't realize it?
That's the challenge Nietzsche throws down, right? It's not about condemnation.
Right.
It's about self-knowledge.
Yeah.
Becoming aware of these things that shape how we see the world. And this leads us to one of his most compelling ideas.
Okay.
The free spirit.
Okay, free spirit.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty appealing.
Right.
Especially after all this talk about hidden agendas and control.
Absolutely.
So who is this free spirit Nietzsche talks about?
So this is someone who questions everything.
Everything.
And I mean everything.
Like what?
Not just the obvious stuff, but their own deeply held beliefs, too.
Whoa.
They're not afraid of the uncertainty that comes with that.
Most of us.
Yeah.
We cling to our beliefs.
Of comfort.
Yeah, for stability. So to question everything, to live with that constant uncertainty. Is that even possible?
Nietzsche would say it's not just possible, it's essential.
Really?
For genuine freedom.
Okay.
And it's not some like passive state you achieve.
Right.
It's a constant struggle.
So
this willingness to reevaluate what you believe and why.
It's more about the process, the questioning, than like arriving at a definitive answer.
Exactly.
That's a big shift for most people to think that way.
Yeah.
It's like letting go of needing to be right all the time.
And that's where things get really interesting when he starts talking about religion.
Hold on before we jump into religion.
Yeah.
I'm still stuck on this questioning everything thing.
Right.
Because if even our most deeply held beliefs are up for debate,
Mm-hmm.
what does that say about, like, our sense of self?
That's a big question.
Our identity?
Yeah. That's the kind of existential rabbit hole Nietzsche wants to send us down.
Oh, boy.
He's asking us to confront the possibility that our sense of self, even our understanding of good and evil, might be built on shaky foundations.
Okay, so we're in free fall here.
Right. He doesn't leave us there in that abyss of uncertainty.
Goodness.
He offers us tools to navigate this new landscape.
Okay. I'm intrigued, but also a little apprehensive.
I understand.
What are these tools? How do we even begin to question the foundations of our beliefs?
Well, that's where things get even more challenging.
Oh, boy.
And maybe a little controversial.
So we're like teetering on the edge of this philosophical abyss, right?
Yeah.
Questioning everything.
Right.
And now we're bringing religion into it.
Of course.
This is where it gets a little much for me.
I get it. It's one thing to question, like, your taste in music or something.
Exactly.
But your core beliefs, your faith, that's another level.
Yeah.
But Nietzsche wouldn't shy away from that.
I mean, you can't deny the impact religion has had.
Oh, absolutely.
Both positive and negative, right?
Yeah, right.
It's inspired, like, incredible acts of love and compassion.
Of course.
But also some pretty horrific violence and oppression.
Yeah.
So where did Nietzsche land on all this?
Well, he was more interested in understanding the psychology behind it.
Okay.
You know, he saw it as a response to the human need for meaning, especially when faced with all the uncertainty of existence.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like, life can be pretty brutal.
It can.
We face suffering and loss
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately death.
Yeah.
And religion often offers comfort,
Right.
hope, a sense of purpose.
I can see that, like, when you're going through something really tough,
Yeah.
the idea that there's a bigger plan, a benevolent force looking out for you,
Right.
that can be really comforting.
Absolutely. It helps make sense of the chaos.
Yeah.
But here's where Nietzsche throws in a word of caution.
Okay.
He's not necessarily against religious feeling itself,
Right.
but he's wary of dogmatism.
So, like, blindly accepting anything without questioning it.
Exactly.
Okay.
He saw that kind of rigid thinking as a danger,
Mm-hmm.
you know, potentially leading to fanaticism.
So it's like he's saying it's okay to find comfort and meaning in religion,
Yeah.
but don't let it become a crutch,
Right.
a way of avoiding the difficult questions.
Yeah, don't let it shut down critical thinking.
Right.
You still have to engage with those big questions about life,
Yes.
your place in the universe, all of that.
You know, it's funny. We started by talking about philosophers projecting their own desires onto the world, and now we're talking about religion potentially doing the same thing.
It's true.
Like Nietzsche's showing us that even the things we hold most sacred
Yeah.
might be more about us than some, like, external objective truth.
Yeah, that's a great connection.
Yeah.
It really gets to the heart of his challenge to become aware of those projections, those hidden motivations,
Yeah.
so that we can choose how we want to live, what we want to believe,
Right.
instead of just blindly following tradition or authority.
Okay, my head is spinning a little bit,
I bet.
but in a good way.
Oh,
This
wait.
is exactly the kind of, like, intellectual jolt I was hoping for.
Yeah,
So before we get too lost in the existential weeds here,
right.
can we pull back and talk about some of the specific insights from the article?
Absolutely.
Remember it mentioned these Nietzschean nuggets of wisdom, because I'm curious to unpack those.
Let's dive in.
Okay.
So one that stood out to me was his perspective on love.
Okay, love.
He argued that for love to be truly meaningful,
Yeah,
it had to go beyond just superficial attraction
right.
or like fleeting passion.
So, like, you need to be able to have deep conversations with your partner.
Yes, he called it intellectual kinship.
Intellectual kinship.
Yeah.
So not just being attracted to their looks.
Right, it has to go deeper.
But, like, actually being intellectually stimulated by them.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah, he saw those shallow relationships as a form of weakness,
Interesting.
like a way of avoiding the challenge of truly connecting with another person.
So, like, strong individuals, free spirits,
Yes.
would seek out partners who can match them intellectually.
Exactly.
It's like that saying, find someone who can challenge your mind as well as your heart.
I love that.
It's not just about finding someone hot,
Right.
but someone who makes you think.
And that expansion,
Yeah.
that willingness to be challenged to grow,
Mm-hmm.
that's a key theme in his work.
Okay.
Comfort and complacency.
Right.
Those are the enemies of growth,
Yeah.
individually and societally.
Okay, so we've got love and intellectual kinship.
Mhm.
What other nuggets did the article highlight?
Let's see.
I vaguely remember something about art and illusion.
Yes, he recognized that life can be harsh,
It can be.
Brutal even.
Yeah.
And he saw art and illusion as providing a necessary escape.
Okay.
Solace from the pain and suffering of reality.
It's like when you get lost in a beautiful piece of music or a captivating food.
Yeah, exactly.
You forget about your troubles for a while.
Right. You immerse yourself
Yeah.
in another world.
It's like a mini vacation for your mind.
Precisely. And he argued that we need those experiences.
Yeah.
You know, those moments of escape.
Right.
To maintain our sanity.
He helped us cope with
Exactly.
the challenges of existence.
It's like he's saying life is tough,
Yeah.
but you're tougher.
I like that.
And here's a little art to help you along the way.
And one of those coping mechanisms, if I remember correctly, is solitude.
You got it.
Something about needing time alone to be truly great.
He believed that spending time alone,
Yeah.
away from the distractions and pressures of society, was crucial for developing your individuality
Okay.
and achieving greatness.
That's a tough one in our hyper-connected world.
I know, right?
Where we're constantly bombarded with information.
Yeah, and expected to be available 24/7.
It's like solitude has become this lost art.
It has.
But he saw it as essential
Absolutely.
for cultivating your unique talents.
He believed that mediocrity thrives in crowds, where everyone conforms to popular opinion,
Right.
but truly exceptional individuals,
Yeah.
the ones who dare to think differently,
Yeah.
they need solitude.
To nurture their inner fire.
Exactly.
So it's not about being a hermit
Right.
or shutting yourself off from the world completely. It's about finding that balance
Right.
between engaging with the world
Right.
and carving out space for yourself to
Right.
think, to
To
reflect.
create it.
And that brings us to a couple of other nuggets. The article mentioned morality and the role of scholars.
Yes, those were intriguing.
Refresh my memory. What was Nietzsche's take on those?
Well, on morality,
Okay.
he argued that it wasn't some fixed absolute set of rules
Right.
handed down from on high.
So not set in stone.
Right.
Interesting.
He saw it as something constantly evolving,
Okay.
shaped by history, culture, power dynamics even.
So what we consider right and wrong,
Yeah.
it can change over time.
Think about how attitudes towards slavery, for example, have changed drastically throughout history.
Right.
What was once widely accepted
Yeah.
is now considered abhorrent.
Yeah.
He argued that we should be cautious
Okay.
about judging people from different times or cultures based solely on our own current moral standards.
It's like he's saying, don't get too smug about your own moral righteousness.
Right.
Your descendants might look back at you with the same judgment you cast on those who came before you.
Exactly.
Boring.
And then there's his perspective on scholars,
Okay.
which is particularly relevant to us today.
Right.
He believed that scholars had a responsibility
Yeah.
to be rigorous in their thinking,
Okay.
but also to recognize the limits of human perspective.
So even the most knowledgeable people should be open to new ideas.
Yes, they should never assume they have a monopoly on truth.
Right.
He saw intellectual humility as a crucial virtue for anyone engaged in the pursuit of knowledge.
So don't get too attached to your own theories.
Right, don't lose sight of the bigger picture.
The complexity of the human experience.
Exactly. It's like he's saying, hey, you can spend your whole life studying philosophy.
Yeah.
But to forget that life itself is the ultimate teacher.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
And I'm starting to see some recurring themes.
Like what?
The importance of questioning everything.
Hmm.
The value of solitude.
Yes.
The evolving nature of morality.
Right.
The need for intellectual humility.
All connected.
But it's still a bit like trying to put together a puzzle.
Yeah.
Out all the pieces.
I understand.
Is there a way to tie all these ideas together
There is.
to see the bigger picture of his philosophy?
It leads us to one of his most famous and often misunderstood concepts,
Okay.
the distinction between master and slave morality.
Okay, here we go.
Are you ready to tackle this one?
Okay, master and slave morality, those are some loaded terms.
They are.
It sounds kind of like something out of a fantasy novel.
Right.
Or maybe a really intense psychology textbook.
It's definitely one of his most provocative ideas,
Okay.
and it's easy to misinterpret.
So help me out here.
Okay.
What is Nietzsche actually getting at with this concept?
So at its core, it's about two different ways of approaching values and morality.
Okay.
He argued that master morality is the morality of the strong,
Okay.
the independent, the self-affirming.
So like embracing their own power,
Yes.
creating their own values, forging their own path.
Exactly.
That sounds a lot like the free spirit we were talking about.
There's definitely a connection there.
Okay.
The master for Nietzsche isn't beholden to conventional morality
Right.
or the dictates of society.
They make their own rules.
They define good and bad based on their own internal compass.
Okay, I'm starting to get a feel for the master side of things.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the slave morality?
Okay.
Does that mean they're weak or submissive?
Well, the term slave is definitely jarring.
Yeah, it does sound kind of negative.
It does.
And it's important to understand the historical context.
Right.
So Nietzsche was writing in the late 19th century, a time of intense social and political upheaval.
Yeah.
And he was really critical of what he saw as the stifling morality of the time.
He felt it was based on resentment,
Okay.
on a feeling of powerlessness,
Interesting.
and that it valued qualities like humility, obedience, compassion.
Okay.
Not because they were inherently good,
But
because they served to protect the weak from the strong.
so the slave morality is kind of like a defense mechanism,
You could see it that way.
a way of coping with a world where you feel like you have no power or control.
He saw it as a reaction to oppression,
Okay.
a way of turning weakness into a virtue.
Wow.
And he argued that this kind of morality,
Yeah.
while it might have had its place in certain historical contexts, ultimately led to a kind of spiritual stagnation.
So like a denial of the human will to power.
Exactly.
Now, I know this is where things can get really tricky.
Yeah.
Because Nietzsche's ideas about master and slave morality
Right.
have been, let's say, misappropriated in the
Yeah,
past.
of course.
It's not hard to see how these concepts could be twisted to justify some pretty horrible things.
Right. It's crucial to emphasize that Nietzsche was not advocating for cruelty
Okay.
or the domination of others.
So he wasn't saying that some people are inherently superior
No.
and deserve to rule over others.
His critique was aimed at a system of values,
Okay.
not at specific groups of people.
So it's not about literally becoming a master
Right.
and subjugating others.
It's more about cultivating those qualities of strength, independence, and self-reliance,
Okay.
but not using them to harm or control other people.
So it's about empowering yourself.
Yes.
Not about disempowering others.
Exactly.
And I think this ties back to his whole message of going beyond good and evil, which is the title of the book, right?
Okay.
Is he saying we should just throw out all moral principles
No, not quite.
and just do whatever we want?
Nietzsche's a lot more nuanced than that.
Okay.
He's not saying we should abandon all morality, but that we should question the conventional ways we think about good and evil.
So, like, examine the origins of our values.
Yes.
To see if they're truly our own or if they've been imposed on us by society.
By tradition.
By fear.
Exactly.
So it's about becoming aware of the forces that shape our beliefs, our values.
And then making a conscious choice
Yeah.
about what we want to believe, how we want to live.
It's like he's saying, don't just blindly accept what you've been told.
Right.
Think for yourself. Create your own values.
Based on what you believe is truly important and meaningful.
And this becomes super relevant in our modern world.
Oh, absolutely.
We're constantly bombarded with messages telling us what to think, what to buy, how to live our lives.
It's like we're drowning in a sea of prepackaged opinions and beliefs.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find your own voice.
Your own truth.
Exactly.
It's almost like we're living in a Nietzsche nightmare.
Right.
Where everyone is striving to conform, to fit in, to follow the crowd.
It's so easy to get swept up in that.
To lose sight of what you truly believe in.
But Nietzsche gives us a framework for resisting those pressures.
Okay.
He encourages us to develop our critical thinking skills,
Yeah.
to be skeptical of easy answers,
Right.
and to have the courage to chart our own course.
Even if it means going against the grain.
Exactly.
Okay, this has been a whirlwind tour of Nietzsche's mind.
It has.
And I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed,
I bet.
but also incredibly energized.
Good.
It's like he's shaken up my whole way of thinking about the world, about myself.
That's the power of Nietzsche.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say is the key takeaway for our listener?
Okay.
What does Nietzsche ultimately want us to do with all these ideas?
I think he's issuing a call to action.
Okay.
He's not just presenting a philosophical theory.
Right.
He's challenging us to live differently.
So it's not enough to just read Nietzsche
Right.
and think, oh, that's interesting.
No, you have to put it into practice.
We actually have to put his ideas into practice in our own lives.
Yes.
But how do we even begin to do that?
It starts with that first step of questioning,
Okay.
examining your own beliefs and values.
And asking yourself.
Where did these come from? Are they truly mine, or is this something I've inherited?
Absorbed from my culture, my family, my environment.
Exactly.
So it's about taking ownership of your own beliefs, your values, your choices.
Yes.
It's about resisting the easy answers, the comfortable narratives.
The pressure to conform.
So embracing the challenge of creating your own meaning.
Even in a world
Yeah.
that often feels chaotic and meaningless.
That's both daunting and incredibly inspiring.
It is.
It's like Nietzsche is saying, hey, you have the power to shape your own destiny. Don't waste it.
And that sense of empowerment
Yeah.
is one of the most valuable gifts Nietzsche offers us.
He reminds us that we are not just passive bystanders in the drama of life.
Right.
We are active participants.
with the ability to make choices that shape our own experiences and influence the world around us.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listener with a final thought.
Okay.
Something to really chew on.
Mm-hmm.
Something that goes beyond the article but captures the essence of Nietzsche's challenge.
I like it.
If we accept that there's no ultimate objective truth out there,
Okay.
if we embrace the idea that we are the creators of our own values,
Mm-hmm.
what responsibility does that place on us?
Ooh.
What kind of world do we want to create,
Wow.
both for ourselves and for others?
That is the question, isn't it?
And I don't think Nietzsche has a simple answer for us.
He doesn't.
He's not offering a blueprint or a set of rules.
Right.
He's asking us to engage in that ongoing dialogue.
With ourselves, with the world, with the very idea of truth itself.
And maybe that's the most important lesson of all.
What's that?
That the questioning never ends. The journey never truly ends.
It's a lifelong process.
And that's not something to be feared, but embraced.
To live a Nietzschean life is to live a life of constant inquiry,
Of courageous self-creation.
of joyful engagement with the mystery and complexity of existence.
Well said.
Thank you.
And on that note, I want to thank you and you, our listener, for joining us on this Nietzschean adventure.
It's been a pleasure.
I hope this deep dive has sparked some new ideas, some fresh perspectives,
Yeah.
and maybe even a little bit of healthy discomfort.
A little bit.
It's been great exploring these ideas with you.
Likewise.
And remember, this is just the beginning of the conversation.
It is.
Keep questioning, keep exploring, keep challenging yourself, and let's see what kind of world we can create together.
Absolutely.
And if you're listening out there, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this deep dive.
Yes.
What resonated with you? What challenged you? What questions are you still wrestling with?
Let us know.
Share your reflections, your insights, your disagreements. Let's keep this conversation going.
Exactly.
Thanks for listening.